Well, welcome to the next episode of Spilling the Tea in Studio D. I got a couple of fresh guests in here, I guess you would say. Wouldn't you say that, Candace?
Yeah.
How would you describe them?
Probably Golden Girls, isn't that the nickname?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
well,
The Golden Girls.
so go ahead and introduce our guests. How about?
Well, today we have the Golden Girls. We have Gayanne Coleman, who is our secondary literacy specialist, and Miss Tammy Boyette, 3-6 literacy specialist. The other half of the literacy dream team
There you go.
joining us today. So we're
Right.
glad to have you guys.
Yeah, and no kidding. I mean, we're very, very blessed to have the literacy group that we've had. We
sure.
do have, for sure. Because we travel the state. Not to say that they're not good, they're just not as good, right?
Yeah,
That's how I would
Dawson's
look
the
at that.
best,
for
I would
sure.
just say.
All right, well, Gayanne, let's start with you. We'll just kind of kick it around and maybe talk about your, I guess, your journey into education, how you got there, why you felt like, because in my mind, it truly is a calling. So, so just kick it in there.
Well, it is absolutely a calling. I always said I wanted to be a school teacher because I could talk all day and nobody could tell me to be quiet.
That's awesome.
But actually, I had a 7th grade teacher who was just absolutely phenomenal. And I always said, I just want to be like Miss Holly.
Right.
And I never wanted to do anything else and went straight into education. The night before student teaching, I told my husband at the time
Right.
that I did not want to do this. I was terrified. And I came home the first day after and I went, this is it.
Yeah,
This is
right.
what I'm supposed to do. And was in the classroom for 14 years and then did some curriculum work and found an opening at Dawson 10 years ago this year.
Oh,
and
wow.
went, I'm going to see if I can do this. And I hope you'll keep me around until retirement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Tammy, what about you?
I actually did not start off first in education.
Me either.
I was going to be Regina Blakely. I was going into communications at the time. But during my senior year of high school, we had to have an extra elective, So I went into a daycare and worked with kids there. And I thought, oh, I love this. But still, I was kind of wanting to do the bright lights of the camera. And so second semester in college, we had to go do a week of shadowing. And I decided that those 30 mornings, driving to Little Rock every morning was not going to be what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I went back to my passion of education and hadn't looked back yet.
Well, that's awesome. How long have you been at Dawson now?
19 years, I believe.
19 years.
19 years. I was in the classroom 9 years. Dawson, 19 more.
Okay.
Yeah, she is in the drop now.
I am in the drop, and let me tell you, I'm counting it down.
The drop zone. Huh?
The drop
Yes.
zone.
Well, this is kind of funny. We had a conference we were at, and there were like three different people had that countdown clock app, and going, look, this is what I've got going on. I said, man, I can't even see the light switch yet, So, anyway, so we said elementary, secondary. So let's talk just a little bit about maybe why that's so important to start them out where we do, and then kind of, I guess what you would say, just kind of dovetails right on into secondary.
So we start out, with Corby and Amanda doing the K2. So they're laying all that foundational work. From there, we move into the 3-6 category where we start really looking at how can we get our kids to comprehend.
Right.
So they teach them how to read, we teach them how to comprehend. So from there, we kind of lay that framework, and then Gayanne picks up with all the real critical thinking that has to happen in that manner.
Right.
Yeah.
So as far, I mean, a lot of times I think folks, because I've been principal, assistant principal at multi-levels, I guess you would say, at middle school and high school. And that high school mentality is like, we don't need no help. I got this. So how do you handle those folks?
Well, with high school, we are a totally different beast up there. We have our classroom, we have our content, and a lot of it is almost like working with your students. You have to build that trust with your high school people. They have to understand that I don't come in thinking I know it all, and let them know that it's okay to think that your content is the best. And I think one of the things that's helped me with the literacy going into other content areas is one of my soapboxes is everybody's not a reading teacher.
Right.
That was a misconception 12 years ago when Common Core came out, is everybody's a reading teacher. No, you're a content teacher. And the best way to get our kids to learn the content is for them to have the reading skills to become a scientist, to become a historian, to become a journalist. Those are all different types of reading, and you need to be the specialist in your area.
Right. Well, and I think you hit on something that really and truly, and again, this is the only co-op I've been associated with on a day-to-day basis, but to me, that's your strong suit. With the strong suit of all of our specialists, actually, is the fact that they don't go in there in acting like, hey, this is what you have to do, that kind of stuff. But your personalities, they're such that, I've seen you guys work a little bit and how you put those folks at ease. You know what I'm saying? Because that's important. Again, I know that secondary, it can be tough. To change anything, but I really and truly, I think that's what separates our literacy specialists from some of the other ones, is the fact that and by meaning that, you're human, and if you screw up or something, maybe say a wrong word,
Okay,
just
don't
keep
go
rolling.
there. We don't need to go there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's the truth. And to me, it's I have seen secondary. They're getting a little bit more tolerable, or probably a lot more actually, because they're starting to see the importance, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as as far as when y'all come together, as a big group, what does that look like? Let's just say, I know from time to time you'll have all the specialists in there. So when that's going on, what are we doing there?
We really sit down and talk about what the strengths of our division and our grade levels are. We are K-12, however, Corby and Amanda really focus on that foundational piece. And so they can share with our administrators or our teachers and let them know exactly what they can do to support. And then I bump it up with the 3-6 part of it. And we just say, this are some things that we can do. Here are some assessments that we can help with. This is how we can really look at how we can get into our RTI process by grouping our kids into small groups. And then Gayanne, of course, comes on board, and she talks about how she can build in all the critical thinking that has to go on for that comprehension.
One of the things, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
okay.
interrupt you. One of the things that I really like about our team is one of the districts we're working with, and it is truly a K-12
Right.
collaboration. And Tammy and I have tested those secondary kids, and some of them are still having problems with tracking, multisyllabic words. Secondary teachers don't know how to teach tracking,
Right.
even in a tier 2 setting.
Sure.
That tracking multisyllabic words, the 6-syllable types, until I did RISE, that was so foreign to me.
Right. Yeah.
And I can't come in and do the tier 2. So Corby and Amanda are coming out of that K-2 realm up to the secondary, and they're going to do some PD with those teachers
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
who
awesome.
are going to work with tracking.
Right.
So it's been really neat to watch our team evolve into being able to cross those lines of, this is my area. It's more of, this is my strength.
Right.
And I can share this strength with teachers.
And being in this being considered a K-12 specialist, we are able to draw on each other,
Yeah.
but yet we still have the ability to, there are times when we need to go up, there are times when we need to go down with
Yeah.
certain
Right.
skills
Yeah.
and strategies.
Yeah, you have your specialization and you kind of branch out
Yeah.
when you need to. So, but I love all of our specialists. I love that you guys just have a servant's heart. You want to help people, and you're great at
Right.
relationships and stuff. So, and I was thinking about you guys the other day when we were at a conference and they were talking about the teacher shortage, and that sometimes educators are they're not encouraging other people to go into the education field or their own children or things like that. And I thought about you guys because you both have kids that are educators, which I think is really awesome.
Now, I did tell Leah when she went into education, I said, I will be fine with you going into education, However, you have to immediately go back and get your master's.
Right.
And you've got to do something that's going to actually give you a paycheck. That's
Right.
that's going to be commensurate of how you want to live.
But
Exactly.
it is such a calling. You know,
Oh,
I have
for
friends
sure.
that their kids at first are like, "Oh, I'm not going to be a teacher," but then now they are like, "Well, I really do." I mean, it's just, I think people are just called.
Well,
to do
I've
that.
said that often with the teacher shortage, right? And a lot of times educators, we're our own worst enemy.
Right.
You know, again, you know, at the end of the day, I know everybody for the most part, especially the ones that are in touch with schools. I mean, y'all see the need, right, for having quality people, you know, come in after us old folks and do a good job. And, you know, I think everywhere we've been since this summer, they continue to talk about a teacher shortage. So if you were queens of the world, what would you do to entice more young people to get into teaching?
I think I would really focus on, like you were saying, it's a servant's heart and the rewards that you get from it. Being in the classroom and having that rapport with the kids is the best feeling that you can ever get, to say,
Right.
okay, I have done something today.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't always have to be the academic part of it.
Right.
It's the emotional piece that
Right.
you have.
Right.
And to me, that was what made me feel good, is when I knew I had helped somebody.
Oh yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Well, and I think a lot of folks always say, if I can just reach one kid,
Right.
you know, and even the 4 short years that I was in the classroom, I mean, made some, you know, some connections. And a lot of times you don't see that payoff until way on down the road. For instance, I've got a guy that taught back in 8th grade, but I was fortunate enough to hire him at Fountain Lake when he was there. And, you know, just the conversations that we still had, you know, and, you know, on a personal level, he was at a really big crossroads in his life as far as staying put or had another good opportunity. And I said, you know, that's one of those things, you know, I'm not going to be able to help you with it. First of all, you're going to have to get on your knees and pray through that one. And second of all, I mean, if it's right, you'll know it's right. So he called me back in a couple of days and told me his decision. And I said, well, see, you worked it out. And and then after that, he just texted and said, hey, thanks for listening. And sometimes that's all you got to do. So, well, Candace, no, she's got to talk the entire time, but most times.
Well, we see who talks the most on the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, that's the thing. You know, let's bird walk big time
Oh,
here.
no.
So before the camera's rolling, you're over there chat. Camera comes on and you get all, what's the word, mousy. That's right, you get quiet.
I mean,
that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
Can you believe
anyway.
it? Can you believe him?
So let's
How
talk.
dare he
see
talk
what
to
I
you
have to
like
put
that?
up. See what I have to put up with.
Hey, that's not even the half of it. See, she get
And
y'all-
then he changes the subject real quick. Okay, now.
No,
Absolutely.
but what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
y'all just see her in this light. You don't see her over there in the hen house and the way she's constantly riding me like
Well,
Seabiscuit. It's just
I know,
terrible.
but what would you do without me? What would you do?
Well,
I mean,
what would I do without you? Woo, Lord, man, probably be in a much better mood every day. That's for sure.
whatever.
You wouldn't have anybody to pick on. 'cause it's
Exactly.
on you
I'm like,
constantly.
it's just like entertainment all the time.
What's that old saying? The truth hurts.
I know. I have to. I mean, he's getting me back right now, probably. So.
It was funny. We were, I don't know, it's been a while back, but we were talking about something, and I said something kind of, you know, like I say. She looked at me and said, "Shut up." And that person was like, and I was like, "Don't worry, it's not the first
Don't
time.
use it.
Won't be the last
he's-
time."
Won't be the last.
He's got to
That's
get.
exactly the relationship we had. We can be in the
Right.
middle of
Yes.
these and we're like, what?
And listen, I'm bossy, but I mean, it's genetics. I'm like, you know, I'm not going to deny that I'm bossy. So
Yeah.
I just say, well, I'm just matter of fact. So would I
Some
be
people
bossy?
wonder how Tammy and I can
Yeah,
work together because
right.
we really do have a lot of the same personality traits. But I think it's because, and she has, by the way, gotten real close to my face and said, "What is wrong with you? Why are you acting like this?" And me respond, "Because."
Yeah, right.
But we turn around
That's
and
awesome.
we
It's over.
You don't take it personal.
No,
No.
it's over.
Right.
know.
Well, and the thing is, you know, it takes that to build a great team, and I'd put our team up honestly against any in the state, no doubt about that. For instance, she's detail, I'm big picture. You know, I can see where I want to go, but I'm not looking down at the potholes. And she's constantly telling me about the potholes. What didn't you think about that? Which is good because, again, that's not in my nature. You know, I roll the dice from time to time. I've failed a bazillion times, but the lessons you learn through those failures is, I mean, it's one of those things that I think is necessary in the process, especially in education, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about COVID for a little bit, you know, as far as, I guess, maybe what you would say, maybe a learning gap. I don't know how to phrase that exactly, but could you see a difference once we came back full time?
Definitely this year has been a big eye opener, especially with our third and fourth graders that we're seeing in all of our districts. It's not just one district.
Right.
Gayanne was saying earlier that we've tested a lot of kids. And the third and fourth graders, we are seeing some huge foundational holes, gaps
Yeah.
in their being able to decode.
Right.
We've also kind of noticing that we're seeing a few more speech problems
Right.
that we have not seen in the past. And I don't know if that is a correlation from it,
Right.
but it is definitely something to think about because our third and fourth graders were the kindergartners and the first graders when we went home early and then had the wonky year where everybody was quarantined basically the whole
Right.
year. And so now they're having to pick up. And so
Right.
there are some foundational gaps that we're seeing.
Yeah, and you know, the thing I would say there too, and it's, you know, everybody wants to say it's this, it's that, or whatever. I mean, we can all understand if it's a single parent home and you know, they've got to make arrangements for their child to be watched, which, I mean, that's normal, it happens. But in that situation where you really couldn't venture out too far because of the pandemic, and the thing with that is I think the kids, and I'm not saying all of them, but again, everybody's got their own story. But I think when it was at its high point there, you know, some of the kids you're talking about, for whatever reason, I think, you know, they didn't really watch over them and say, hey, get this done.
Right.
And I'll be the first to tell you, it's hard to keep a youngster's attention. And, you know, they talk about being an entertainer in the classroom. So imagine having to do that all day, every day on video. There were some good ones out there, but even with good product, we weren't given any guarantees that it was being watched or followed through.
Absolutely. The engagement.
Yeah, and you didn't just didn't have
Possibly
that
wasn't
back
there.
and forth.
Yeah, but especially with those kindergarten first graders, it's that whole phonemic awareness that has to be taught and learned and
Right.
mastered. And when you're masked up, they couldn't see, they couldn't hear
Right.
how it was the sounds were supposed to be officially made.
Yeah.
Well, and you say something there. Let's talk about that for a half second. That the importance of, you know, the first grade kindergartners being able to see you. How, I mean, the importance wise, where does that fall into the scale of teaching, reading, and
Huge, because it's where the sounds are made. So the kids have got to be, they've got to be understanding of where their tongue placement is, how their mouth is supposed to look. If it's open, it's a vowel. When your chin drops, you're going to have a vowel sound. So they have to understand that. But when you had those masks on, you couldn't see it. You couldn't explain it. You
Yeah.
couldn't show it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Before COVID, you know, in kindergarten and first grade classrooms, we would have kids with mirrors watching how their
Right.
mouth looked as they made these sounds.
right.
We couldn't do it.
No.
And we can definitely see some gaps now.
So, with that being said, what kind of steps or extra steps, I don't know which way to phrase that best, have y'all had to take, you know, to do our dead level best to get them up to where they need to be?
Really encouraging the RTI process with that tier 2 and tier 3.
Okay, RTI, you got to throw that out with the acronyms. you know.
Response to intervention.
There we go. Okay.
Response to intervention. So with that RTI process, really driving it into what are the skills needed that the kids have to have. And Gayanne has been really preaching with the middle school and high school as well, trying to get them to understand that we don't have to do that RTI process based on grade level.
Right.
We need to do it based on skill level. And so really helping teachers understand. So for our 3-12 teachers, it's really trying to help them get some of those foundational skills under their belt
Right.
so that they can instruct
Right.
appropriately in an RTI setting.
So, you know, I guess we're changing, obviously, the way we deliver it, right? So how has that affected it? I know most folks are getting back on campus now, right? But they had a pretty good spurt of time there where it was all online. So how do you reel those folks back in there?
Well, that's in the process. That's in the works.
Right.
And because you can't go in and just say, okay, we're going to stop with the Google Classroom. And because they feel like that's almost the flip that they had with COVID.
Right.
We've got to get rid of the books and paper, pencil. We've got to go all electronic. So it's an adjustment for the kids and the teachers. But I think we are seeing more start to not lean on Google Classroom so much.
Right.
Last year it was a real concern.
Right.
And with RTI being such a push, they were depending on software for that RTI,
Right.
that tier 2. So it's a process, and it's something, but I do see this year less just get on your computer and do
Right,
the work.
right.
And I think it's been, are we going to have to just flip back again anyway?
Right.
So it's that fear of, I don't want to totally give this up and go back to
Right.
my old ways,
Yeah.
and us just have to flip. So they're doing a good job of integrating the two now.
Well, and like anything else, though, especially with RTI, I'm sitting here thinking that, there were folks that did it, online or what have you, but the human element is so important right there because, when you're working with those students individually, small groups, whatever, so important for them to see and react, to the encouragement or advice, whatever you may call it, to that they can master this. And whereas online, I laugh about, there was a third grade, I think it was, class we were watching, and I don't know how the teacher did it, bless her heart, but I mean, these kids were in and out and wanting to show their dog, and she never missed a beat, but she was, in the same time, was very encouraging. So, when that happened, I'm sure you guys were called upon a lot, right, for help. So what kind of advice did you give them?
Fail forward.
I will pray for you. I will pray for you.
Right, yeah.
Do the best that you can. I mean,
Right.
we were all in a
I know.
pandemic
Yeah.
where
Right.
nobody knew what to do.
Right.
And venturing out with that digital
Yeah.
world, that was
Sure.
brand new for a lot of us. So
Right.
fail forward.
Yeah.
Do the
Yeah.
best you can, and if you mess
Yeah.
up, don't quit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just learn from it and move on.
Yeah, and I think after we took a deep breath and got over, the initial throat punch of COVID, it really came down to skill set, and content. And those are the ones that I saw be extremely successful. I mean, okay, it was a little different format, but they still were able to, get the lesson taught. And I'm, like you were saying, I think we're just kind of easing back in there. And last couple of years have, it's been encouraging. I know the schools have said that, just that interaction piece. And to me, the pandemic, that's where it really and truly showed, again, I go back to that, the importance of that, human interaction. So.
I've heard a lot say this year, not that anything is normal, but back to semi-normal. And it's been great. That's what they said. So.
Well, I agree with you. What you said earlier, that personal interaction that you have is way better than doing something Zoom wise.
Yeah.
Because it is about the relationships that you have, and over Zoom you can't have that.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I need to be where I can touch somebody.
Sure,
I can.
right.
y'all know
see
I'm
your
so
eyes.
ADD. It's hard. Zoom is hard for me.
It is. It doesn't hold my attention at
It's
all.
really
Well, and I think probably something that you guys had to add to your wagon that we didn't think about was the teacher side of it. I mean, they were stressing about having to learn a new platform and how to teach, and it was a whole new kind of stress. So as far as going in there and encouraging them, what have y'all done to do that, the teachers?
Really, I mean, it's just, what do you need from
Absolutely.
us?
Yeah, and
It
that's
is
awesome.
not,
yeah.
we try not to go in and go, we know what their test scores
Right,
are. We're
right.
pretty good about staying on top
Right.
of those types of things.
Right.
but we try to put that out and put the human first.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you need? And some of them, sometimes
Right.
it's just sitting and listening to them go,
Sure.
my kids will not do,
Right.
or the parents are.
Right.
It's whatever. We have two particular teachers who have moved into a different role that are really struggling right now.
Right.
And it has not been a whole lot of this is what you should do. It's them calling or texting and just going, I don't
Yeah.
know what to do. I'm
Right.
doing the best that I can. And our response being, you're going to do fine. It's difficult that first year.
Right.
And to me, that's one of our biggest roles since COVID, because it's been such a struggle
Right.
of just going, yes, it's going to be new curriculum. Don't try and add anything on top of it. Do what you can do. What can I bring in to help you? Tammy and
Right.
I have made copies.
Right.
We have made posters. We have helped set up classrooms and bulletin boards and morpheme walls. It's not always been going in and writing curriculum.
Right,
It's
right.
what do you need?
Right.
And I think that's one of our strong suits is what do you need? If I need to put on blue jeans or if I need to put on dress pants, we'll
Right.
come in and do what we have to
Yeah.
do.
That cheerleader,
Absolutely.
encourager,
Well,
you
and,
name it.
and the other thing that's huge right now is, again, it's the social, emotional. And we got a couple calls and say, hey, can you help us? And Candace and the online teachers, what I was trying to say there, they've done a good job of putting a package together. But there are a couple schools that called and said, we're like, okay, what specifically do you need for the kids? And they're like, oh, no, it's not for the kids. It's for the teachers. And it took me hearing that a couple times for it to sink in. But I think everywhere you go now, you're hearing about the social and emotional side of things. So that's new, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, switching gears, this just randomly popped in my head. Imagine that. But where did y'all go to high school?
Arkadelphia.
You're
Girl, I was a preacher's kid. How many high schools do you want me to name?
oh my goodness. So you,
Yeah, from kindergarten to high school. I honestly don't know.
where'd you end up graduating?
In a little town in Texas, Mount Vernon, Texas.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. We lived there, I think, my junior and senior year.
Preacher's kid. Okay, that explains
I
it.
did.
I'm totally teasing you.
No, I can tell you there were probably some teachers that I had. One I can think of that is probably rolling in her grave going, what has the education in Arkansas come to? That's okay. I think I turned out pretty well.
Yeah,
There's
Right.
lots
me
of life
too.
experiences, which may be why I related so well to what were considered bad kids.
Sure.
Those were my babies. And
I shifted gears when you said bad kids. I used to, because it's easy just to get into that good kid, bad kid or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's like I've tried to change my mentality, and other people in the buildings that I was in is like, they're kids. They all make
Right.
poor decisions, good decisions. So it's a kid, the kid that makes several poor decisions or a kid that makes several good decisions.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's a message I think that as an administrator, I tell parents, we've done everything for him or her to make good decisions, and I said, what this whole world of education has taught me is eventually those kids are going to come back around what they've been taught. Now, it may not be on your time schedule, but they'll come back. They know what they know, and so at the time, maybe if they made a poor choice, it's hard to look like that. But I've seen that time and time again.
So, Gayanne, you're saying you did end up in the principal's office a few times.
There were a couple of times. Yeah, I did spend one time at the little alternatives classroom, and I didn't go back. I didn't go back.
You learned your lesson.
I did. I did. Cigarettes were not for me.
Yeah, if it
That
was
was
all,
junior high.
You're
hey,
like,
if it
thank-
was
Not
only
at
cigarettes
school.
today,
Yeah,
you know.
not at
Yeah.
school anyway.
Oh, goodness.
I just decided if they were going to talk about me, it might as well be true.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I just mess with you.
No,
You're
I
awesome.
had some very supportive parents with a firm hand, but they didn't quit loving me.
Right.
So
Right.
made it through it, and
Hey, don't we? We all have our.
Oh yeah. Well, and you hit on a point there. I mean, I've had some, students along the way, and, they can't help what, growing up, I mean, that's really not on them, and if they get to making bad choices or whatever, they get to the point of accountability and they know right from wrong. But I can remember too, is just like, not throwing them out with the bathwater and explaining to them, this is a life lesson. I mean, you make a poor choice, you're going to get consequences.
That's
You
right.
choose to do the right thing, you're going to get, accolades and going to be able to progress through life like you should.
Yeah, because we make. I mean, even as adults, make poor
All the
decisions.
time.
I make poor decisions.
Yes, you do every day. I don't know. I think today's counts up to like 35, and it's not even noon yet. So
Let's see. Poor decision number one. What was
Yeah.
I thinking? Going to work for Darren Becker
that was going to be
again?
my question.
Exactly.
okay, hey, I can change that. That's not a problem. Hey, I don't have a problem with that.
He couldn't make
There are
it
some
without-
situations that can be remedied.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. So, Gayanne, she alluded to this earlier about that special teacher probably that you had. And, I think we all have that person. I look back even to my senior year. I mean, teaching was not on the roadmap for me. I mean, they knew radio. And I can remember, I still have it, by the way, but one of my teachers gave me a dollar sign money clip and said, well, this will be for all that money you're going to make. Little did she know I got into education, so that thing's not even half full yet, right?
Absolutely.
But I was going through stuff the other day, and I thought, in my drawer looking for something, and that thing just brought a smile to my face. I remember, looking back on it, it's that one teacher that had that impression, and it doesn't take much sometimes. So who was yours?
I think I probably had several. I came to Arkadelphia when I was in the 4th grade, and so I was here from 4th through 12th. But the ones that kind of I remember the most was probably Miss Thomas when elementary school, Carolyn Bell at junior high, and probably Janet Benson at the high school. And then you have to throw in some Nackerman Williams. So he was algebra. He wanted to
Right.
throw me out, but
Right.
he hung with me.
Yeah, that's when he put me on the spot. If I think we talked to Rayleigh, I think that day, and I said my 2nd grade teacher who I saw at a wedding not long ago. It was so awesome, and then I didn't realize my good friend, she was Miss Lindsay, was Gina's kindergarten teacher, and I was like, well, that is so cool, and she's awesome. Miss McLeod probably in high school, but I want to tell y'all, Sarah, my daughter. She had some coaches at Magnet that had a huge impact, but she also had an ag teacher, Kristen Sheets, and she reached out to
She is
Sarah.
amazing,
Well, she
isn't she?
texted Sarah the other day, just checking on her, and I thought, you know what, that is really awesome, because I'm sitting here thinking back as a teacher, I don't know that I did that enough. But I thought it was pretty amazing, so I was like, I'm gonna give her a little shout out.
She
'cause
still
she's-
texts JC. And
That
JC
is
would never have
just-
done ag.
Right.
I mean, why? And she thought it was so cool
It
that there
made-
was a
Yep.
female.
Oh, yeah.
And now JC, and she texts Kristen a lot when she's starting her tomatoes and
Right.
her cucumbers. And that's so cool.
Yeah,
That
Sarah loved it, made her day.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
Well, and you say that, I this teacher I was telling you about ran into her, I don't know, a couple of years ago in a parking lot, and because most people, when they see, they're like, now what do you do? I'd say, well, I'm superintendent. What? You? But she said, and I said, I get it. You never would have thought I'd be there. And she looked at me dead, and I said, yeah, that's not a surprise to me. I was like, wow, she ruined that moment for me. But anyway.
Before COVID, I guess it was the summer before COVID, Janet Benson works a lot over at the Beehive Volunteers with Group Living. And she saw me, and we stopped to talk for a second. And I was telling her, I've got to go. I've got to get back in here. I've got a workshop. She said, I want to come in and sit. And she did. She came
wow.
in and sat for 15, 20 minutes and
Wow.
just
That
soaked
is
it up.
so
But
neat.
it was that, even though I haven't been in high school in a very long time,
Sure.
she still wanted to see that I was doing a good job and wanted to see how life was treating me.
That's awesome.
So I thought that was pretty cool for her to come and just sit in with us.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, not even the folks that you don't even have to be in education. There are plenty of teachers that step up and say, have you thought about X, Y, and Z if you want to go down that road? And there may be something you didn't think about. You're like, okay, I don't want to do calculus. I need to go somewhere else. So, lots and lots of those folks. Well, we'll wrap up here for a minute, but we like to throw a few questions out there. And I thought of this one the other day because I work with Candace. What's been your most embarrassing moment as a teacher?
I don't think you want me to say this on the podcast.
Well, you can. I mean, we'll bleep you out if we need to.
Okay. I was walking my fourth graders to the cafeteria, and we had to go to recess right after. So the kids would get their toys that they wanted to play with or their balls they wanted to play with. And as we were walking to the cafeteria, the boys were bouncing the basketballs.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn around and holler, "Boys, hold your balls."
Wow. Oof. Yeah, no kidding.
Luckily,
And then it
was
hits you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was the group of kids that was my oldest daughter's age.
Right,
So they
right.
all knew me and I knew
Exactly.
them. And they were like, "Whoa!" I was like,
Yeah.
"Y'all just be quiet. You know what I meant."
At what point did you want to start, dragging it back? Yeah.
I think that was probably my most embarrassing.
I got
Wait a minute. Or the time that I went to the superintendent's office and he asked what we were doing on campus. And I said, "Oh, you got to come on over, Dr. Holman. We're pissing kids." We were
Pissing
kissing
pigs.
We were kissing pigs.
Kissing pigs.
Get a little nervous
That's
in
a
the big
easy-
guy's
yeah,
office.
yeah,
My language kind of sometimes gets
Yeah,
the best
yeah,
of me.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Gayanne, what about you?
There's no way I could tell a story that could beat either.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let hers be embarrassing enough for both of us.
Yeah, she told a couple, so
Yeah,
I think that's fair. Yeah,
I have not had to piss a gig ever in my life.
yeah.
So
That's
I
great.
have had to piss a kid.
Oh, man. Yeah, that explains a whole lot. So, anyway, all right, we'll give you a softball. So, what's on your playlist in your car? Because I know y'all drive a lot, right?
a lot. We are both diehard Bobby Bones in the morning country music, pretty
Right.
much. I will say this: every morning, my Alexa wakes me up to Jason Crabb, "Good Morning Mercy."
Oh, yeah.
And if you have not listened,
It's
that is my alarm. Alexa doesn't even ask what to play in the
Right.
mornings because I wake up to Good Morning Mercy.
Right.
Because if I did not wake up to Mercy
Right.
every morning,
Great way to start the day.
and that's my go-to is
Yeah,
Good
that's
Morning
awesome.
Mercy. Yeah.
Well, mine right now is Jelly Roll
Oh, yeah.
with Son of a Sinner. That is
Yeah.
my favorite song, I think,
a
right
good song.
now.
Man, he's got an incredible story. you
I
know?
know. And then if you see him,
Yeah.
he is so not what I thought
Right.
he was going to
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah, exactly.
But I am
Yeah.
loving me some Jelly Roll.
Well, I saw him actually on YouTube or something before I really knew who he was, and he was singing with another group, but he was doing Simple Man. Man, he knocked that out of the park, yeah, he's a good one. Bobby Bones, getting back on that, he's another person that will tell you he was influenced by a coach, at Mountain Pine of all
Right.
places. Ashley McBride's an Arkansan from, I want to say Cave City. No, Mammoth Springs. But anyway, yesterday, she's pushed through, fought through. Sorry, look at me. Speaking of pushing all over you. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But,
That's what
you
I
just-
get
Yeah.
for bringing my own drink in.
That's right.
And he talks about me,
Yeah.
and you spilled
Yeah.
water on the guest.
well,
I'm
that's
just
all right,
saying. I mean,
I'm just trying to throw a little holy water on her for the embarrassing moment, maybe. So, but anyway, back to that with Bobby Bones and then this Ashley McBride yesterday. She was on, I think, CBS this morning, just chatting away. And then Garth Brooks comes in on video and invites her to be the latest person to join the Grand Ole Opry. So it's pretty cool. That was, that was a surreal moment for her. And she tells that story. This is the negative side of how you impact kids. She had a math teacher and said, what do you want to do? And she said, well, I want to go to Nashville, write songs, perform them. And she said, that'll never happen. You know, you need to have a plan B. And so I bet she's, you know,
Proved her wrong. Huh?
yeah,
I think she's got a song
yeah,
made
absolutely.
just for her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Tammy's like, okay, we got to get out of here. 'Cause
Yeah.
guess what she gets to do in a few minutes?
Right.
I'm going to hold my sweet little new grandbaby.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Well, that's another great question to bring up is how do grandbabies change your life? Because I know y'all both have experienced that, right?
It's a feeling that you just can't really explain.
Mm-hmm.
But my thinking is they can do no wrong. I am not
Right.
totally responsible for them.
Right.
So we get to do whatever we want.
Sure.
If he wants to eat ice cream in the bathtub,
Right.
he can have ice cream in the bathtub.
Absolutely.
If he wants chips or ice cream for breakfast, he gets chips or ice cream
Right.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's his mom and dad's
Right.
Yeah.
job to make sure he has a well-balanced meal. They can
That's
make
right.
it up whenever. But it is an experience that you just cannot explain. There's something more than it just being a grandkid. It's
Right.
the fact that your child has produced this little
Right.
miracle
That's awesome.
and is raising
Yeah.
a family.
Yeah. What about you, Gayanne?
Oh, she's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has always said it's just a feeling that you can never explain. And I thought, okay, yeah, it's true. Parker does no wrong,
Right.
and even with dirt smeared all over,
Right.
she's the most beautiful, the
Right.
funniest. And when she looks at you and pulls that little finger and says, psh, psh, "Big buck deer,"
Yeah.
it's the sweetest thing
Yeah.
ever, and
Yeah.
you can't wait for her to kill that big buck deer.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be that kind. And like I said, you know, get them sugared up, go home. And it kind of reminds me last year there was a competition amongst teachers or whatever, a drawing. And art teacher, kindergarten art teacher at Bryant won it. So I got to go in and hand out donuts and gave them, I don't know, punch, whatever it was they were. And man, they were hyped up before I got out of there. But I told the teacher, hey, have a good day. You know,
See you later.
That's right. So that's probably going to be the kind that I will be. you know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they jump on the furniture. It does not matter if they
You're like,
sit on top of the counter.
What happens at grandma's stays at grandma's?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids literally say, "Mom, you would have never allowed
Yeah.
us to do such.
Yeah.
Y'all would have never allowed us." I'm like, it doesn't matter.
And you never walk into a store without going, "What? Oh, they would love that."
Yeah. Well, you know,
Just grab it.
there was a employee that I worked with at Lakeside, and he told me when Hayden was small, he was like, I don't know, 5, 6, and he said, look, I'm going to tell you something. He said, whatever that kid does within reason or wants to do, he said, do it. He said, you know, I remember one time, you know, we got in trouble by his wife at the time for, you know, playing ball in the store. And he said, but you know what, that's one of the best memories I'll ever have. So I kind of took that advice and actually took that activity a whole lot. And my wife, she said, I never had to, you know, worry about where you were. I just looked for the football or the baseball coming over the aisle, and that's where y'all were. And she, you know, she'd be embarrassed and all that good stuff. But hey,
Those
you know,
are memories.
oh,
that-
for sure,
And
for
the
sure.
story to
story's
tell.
So much
It's a
more.
story to tell. That's absolutely right.
Yep.
Speaking of Bobby Bones, I'm going there in a couple of weeks. My wife called. Where was I at? I was somewhere because she called up here and told the girls clear his schedule, but I don't even know if I had anything. But anyway, she said, you know, she listens to him religiously too,
Yeah.
and I do too a lot. You know, have y'all seen his TED Talk?
I have
have
a little
not.
bit of them.
Okay. Well, you know, I watched it, and in the background as he's talking, he said, you know, I applied at one radio station, and it was the call letters for KQUS, US 97, and that's where I was working, and I was program director, but I don't think I ever saw his stuff come across my desk. But if I did, boy, was that a mistake, right? But, yeah, incredible story, you know, with that guy, and you know, that goes back to what we've been talking about. You know, some kids just need that little bit of encouragement.
Somebody to believe in it.
I think about you know, when the testing for juniors wasn't required.
Right.
We had I talked to our board and said, look, it doesn't matter. We need to give everybody let them test and pay for it if they want it or whatever. And I never will forget a young lady that counselor came in and told me, she said she made a 32 on the ACT. And she said, you know, that's huge. And when she told the girl, she was like, is that bad, good, what, you know? but she was able to go on to college. Didn't have to pay a dime actually, and so those are the kinds of things that you never know how a small thing can roll into a big life-changing thing
Right.
for somebody else.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
And I say a lot, I'm going to get off of social media. I'm just done with it. But one of the coolest things to me about social media is going through and watching my students who have successful lives and kids and anniversaries.
Right.
And when I pop on there and say, happy birthday or happy
Right.
anniversary, and they come back and go, oh, it's as adults, and I kind of feel that way about my kids. I loved
Right.
my kids as children, and I love those kids as students, but the most rewarding part, I think, of my life at this point is my kids being successful adults, and all of those kids that I've said were my kids
Right.
over the years
Right.
yeah,
be successful adults. I don't look at the negative pages of where
Right.
some of them might be. I look at those and go, wow, you are such a cool adult.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I won't deactivate my
Right.
account.
Well,
for-
but
just
Candace
that
has got a
reason.
pretty cool story that the tutoring, the young man that reached out to you.
Yeah, he reached out about he had dropped out of school, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting my GED." Got him in touch with somebody at National Park, and then a few months went by, and I was like, "I'm going to check in, message him on Facebook, and just see if he got his GED." And he was like, "No, I hadn't done it." And I'm like, "Look, I'll tutor you. You need to get your GED." So we've had a tutoring session. He's got a major work schedule, so it may take a while. And I told him it may take 2 years, but you're getting the GED, and so we're determined.
Well,
to
and
do
let's
it.
just say he was one of those that was less than perfect, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but,
but that's what I'm saying. I mean,
He's a great kid. He's got a good heart.
Absolutely.
He's a kid.
and yeah, that's
He
the
was a
thing.
kid. He was a kid. He's
Right.
not now, but he's a.
I mean, really
Mature
and truly,
adult.
that's probably one of the best lessons education has taught me is the ability to look past things. You know what really and truly, what do you want out of the deal? And
Yeah.
that's everybody to be successful that you can.
I may
So,
tell him, I'll be like, "You're going to get your GED, and then we'll get you on the podcast."
There you go. Hey, that'd be
Give him
good.
a raise.
He would
Absolutely.
probably do
Oh,
it.
he'd be all over
probably
that.
really
he
do
probably
it.
would.
Incentive.
So,
Yeah.
well, I appreciate y'all coming in again.
Yes.
Hey, sorry about knocking that water over.
Yeah,
so,
well,
That's
you know,
called karma. That is called karma for being mean to me.
how's that karma landed on Gayanne, not you? Good Lord.
To you.
That he
But
got water all over you.
Okay.
It was.
Again,
his fault.
nerd math teacher. That tells you. She had
That's
had the
true. I
life
can't deny
experiences
that. I
we
can't
had,
deny
right? All right. Well, again, thank y'all for coming in. I
enjoyed
appreciate
it.
all that y'all do. Y'all do incredible work.
Yes.
Still
Yes.
making a big difference in the lives
Yes.
of young people, and that's in essence why we're all here.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.